You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Moline, the co-author of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors, How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I'll be sitting down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. As always, please share, please like, please comment, please subscribe. And if you want to continue the conversation beyond what you're hearing on the podcast, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. Today, we have another successful contractor on the show sharing their story. John Stowell of Five Guys Roofing down in Arizona. How's it going today?
Absolutely great. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, man. I've been watching you guys for a while. I love the content that you guys produce. I love the branding that you guys have. You really stand out in your marketplace. So, we definitely wanted to have you on the show. For our listeners, tell us a little bit about Five Guys and kind of the story of how it came to be.
Sure. So, Five Guys in a nutshell. So it's a long-standing business. My dad actually started a roofing company, not Five Guys as it is today, but another roofing company back in '94. He was a sole proprietor for a long time, ended up getting a couple crews together. It wasn't until all four of his sons were old enough, graduated from high school, went to college. Some of us served missions for our church, but we all got back and decided that we wanted to create something better, bigger. And so it was 2012 that we reestablished or renamed the company to Five Guys. It wasn't until 2017 that all five of us were actually in the company working all together. And so for the last, since 2017, it's been the five of us, sorry. And then just in the last, I would say probably year to year and a half, we've transitioned ownership now. And so my dad's had the ability to kind of take a step back and enjoy that retirement life. And we've been able to take the company and continue to grow. So the four of us are all intricately involved. I'm the CEO. My next brother, who's just younger than me, is the CSO and over sales. The brother just younger than him is over operations. And the brother just younger, my youngest brother, Justin, he's over all of our talent and people hiring, that kind of thing. So
that's cool, man. I love that story of how that it grew into such a family business, right? And now everyone is that. Are those all of your siblings, or are there other siblings also?
So no, it's kind of a joke, long-standing joke, not joke, but yeah, we've got one more sibling. It's my sister, and she's just younger than I am, but no, she's got her own career. She's a registered nurse, and her husband's a nurse, and they're doing their thing. So no, it's good though. We love it, and we're happy.
That's a cool thing, man. How is it working? What's the dynamic, in the office with siblings? You
obviously hear horror stories, and most of these stories end up where you don't work together.
Yeah.
And so no, we get that question a lot, and I think it's a unique environment for us. We grew up hating each other. We grew up fighting, the whole thing. But I think as we've gotten to our adult years, all of us are now married. We all have kids, and we've all kind of figured out what we're good at, what our strengths and weaknesses are. And we talk about it a lot. Like we're each here to do our part, and we try to stay in our own lane in a way.
Yeah.
But obviously, with all of us being owners, that crosses, and so we have to have hard conversations, and we just have to be open and honest with each other. But we all bring unique characteristics to the table, and each of us has our own things to do. And fortunately, we're all relatively responsible and we all have the same goals in, for what we want to do with the company. And so it's worked thus far. And we obviously we have a long-term plan for this. All of us want to grow this thing into, a big business with lots of people and create a legacy and hopefully create, opportunities for generations past us. So I think it kind of keeps us grounded. None of us are really like trying to chase big money right now. We're just, putting our time in and trying to build something that we know is sustainable and can create something for our kids and their grandkids. So it's unique and it's different, and there's different challenges come with it, but we take it day by day and we'll see where it goes. So
yeah, I'm sure there's challenges. So starting in 1994, I think you had talked to me that your dad was kind of started off doing flat roofs, foam roofs stuff.
Yeah.
And as you transitioned, as you've grown through the years, what do you guys do more nowadays? What's your service mix nowadays?
Yeah. So my dad started back in flat foam roofing, foam insulation. He did coatings as well. That transitioned in the late 2000s when we started doing tile and shingle. And just in the last couple of years, we've brought on all of the roof types: wood shake, metal, TPO, PVC. What else do we do? I'm sure there's a couple of them I'm missing. But we basically offer full range roofing services, and those opportunities we slowly started bringing on those roof types as we kind of mastered the one before, and also been able to find guys to come on and help specialize in those things. And so it's taken some time. We wanted to. We had this idea in mind back in a while ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, that we wanted to try this, and we kind of stepped into some roof types, and man, it was like a disaster. Tile is different than shingle, and TPO is different than foam. And so, each one requires kind of its own craft and its own management and its own processes. And so it's taken us some time to really learn the product and get the right people in the door and the right experience, but we now offer full roofing services.
So can you speak to some of those challenges and how you overcame them? Like when you brought tile or a specific, kind of product that you brought on, do you have one that comes to mind where you're like, oh yeah, I remember when this happened or that?
Yeah. I mean, so to give specifics, it's been a while, but I do remember back when we brought on tile, and the first couple jobs, we subcontracted out the work, and we never really had a knowledge of the product yet. And so we really didn't know how to do a quality check. Right. So the first couple of them, we ended up having to go back and completely redo because the measurements weren't quite right. And so the top tile was cut and we just had this little piece, and like, we were looking at it going, you know what, that looks okay, but not great. And then the customer said, yeah, I don't know about this. And then anyways, long story short, we realized that, we didn't have the proper quality checks on the front end. And unfortunately we didn't hire a sub that had their quality checks in place. And so we ended up redoing it. So it seems like every new roof type that we brought on, we had to go through that learning curve, and just make sure that, we slow down. That was one thing that we didn't do well at is going through things slow. We tend to move through things really quickly, but learning that we got to slow down. We've got to make sure that we're out there on the jobs all the time, getting the processes down, checking quality every step of the way. And obviously we're much better today than we were even 5 years ago at that. So bringing on anything new, for instance, we're just starting into siding, like metal siding. So metal roofing is now transitioning into metal siding. And so, now we're able to roll into that slower, have better quality checks, making sure we have the right people out on the jobs. And hopefully we don't have to go back and redo those ones because those are really expensive.
Yeah. But that's kind of part of business though, right? Like sometimes you have to learn on the job, and sometimes you have to make up for what what your lack of knowledge was at the time. Right. Yeah. That's great. And
absolutely.
And I know you guys really focus. I guess I should just ask you what's your kind of unique selling proposition? How do you position Five Guys to the market?
Yeah. So that's great. I think, I think I think the unique selling propositions change as your business evolves.
Yeah.
Going back a couple years ago, we really came to market with this. It's actually a trademark product through a company through a networking company or a roof. What do they call it? Like a consulting business. And they have this product called straightforward pricing, where it's basically like menu pricing. And so, you walk into McDonald's and you have a big menu and you can pick the packages or you can pick a la carte, right? You can pick so that's kind of the philosophy that we had going into like the residential market, where we had literally menu pricing. We do roof inspections, and then we allow the customer to go through, and we'll obviously give our suggestions, our recommendations, but they can see kind of in the menu price exactly what that's going to cost them. And there's no hidden fees, right? There's no upsells. There's none of that extra, all that stuff that that a lot of roofing companies do. And so it's very straightforward, and we've been able to really capitalize on that. So that would be one unique selling point. I think another big one is, and we're still working out a lot of the details, but coming to the market with a club membership has been really beneficial, where we know the value of maintenance, and we know the value of having guys out on the roof every year. And so trying to get people into this club program where we go out and we do biannual maintenance. And also it offers them some discounts and things like that. So if you have an older roof, you can basically come into this organization with a club membership and save some money down the road, get your maintenance done. And so that's very unique, especially in the roofing market.
Definitely. And when we talked about that, I thought that was a really cool thing that you guys were doing. So what I didn't realize though is that you're offering the club membership to people who are you offering it to people who you have not replaced their roof?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So I had it in mind like, oh, okay, you replace a roof and then they're in the club membership, and you kind of keep them in your, in your sales pipeline, stay top of mind to them through the years. But this is even more unique. You're actually going out and offering it to people who don't need a roof replacement right now.
Right. Yeah. So the idea is like, once you've replaced the roof, the roofing needs on that house go away, right? Yeah. Like, at least you hope so. At least they hope so, right? That's why they buy the warranty. And so we obviously want to get out on those replacements and do maintenance, just to keep the warranty up to date. But for all the opportunities where you go out and you sell a repair and then you hope that they call you when it's time to replace the roof, those are all the customers that we want to capture. And so, we'll come into the door, offer them some repair options. And then if they sign up for the club, there's some discounts there that we can offer them. In addition to, roof maintenance, large debris removal. If there's any, like, especially in Arizona, when monsoon season rolls around, all those customers get bumped to the top of the list. So right now, if any new customers call in, it's a 3-week wait just to get an inspection done. So if we have a member call in, they get bumped straight to the front. So a lot of value in it.
A lot of value. And that is such a unique way to, like, really, people buy from who they know, like, and trust, right? It's that's in a very simplistic way of putting it, like, being in front of them and building trust with a homeowner over time. It just seems like a perfect way to gain that customer long-term. Yeah. Right.
100%.
Yeah. Where did you come up with this? What was this like? Do you guys have do you guys all the siblings get together and throw ideas around, or where did this come?
Honestly, I wish we could take credit for it. It's not necessarily our idea. This came from another organization that we're part of, that where straightforward pricing also came from.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So this organization that we're part of specializes in home services. And so they've taken a lot of things that worked in like HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, and have adapted them to the roofing service. So that's where some of these ideas have come from.
Yeah, and that's a good that's something to kind of contemplate, right? As a roofing business owner, you don't have to just emulate your business. You can try what has worked in other other, other trades, right? Like, and maybe that might be impactful. So with the straightforward pricing, I like this idea. And so this is part of your sales process, right? So all of your salespeople are just trained on how to present this option, the straightforward pricing option then?
Yeah, you got it, Jim. Yeah, that's exactly right. All of our sales guys, before they go out on any jobs, we send them to some trainings. It's 3 or 4 days. There's a couple different series that they go to, and they go through the entire process, off-site, just completely disconnected from here doing inspections and trying to work in the daily hustle. So yeah, we send them off. We get them trained up on the process. That way, then they come back, they're just ready to plug and play.
That's cool. And that seems to me like it can really systematize the training of these salespeople too. Has that been helpful to you since you've implemented the straightforward pricing? Have you felt that in your training process?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps. There's always, you're not going to retain 100% of the trainings the first time you go through it. So it does take a couple times, right? And I wish it was completely like, okay, get a guy in the door, get him to the training, let him come back, and they're going to be successful. And it's, sometimes that happens, but for a vast majority of guys, it's like, okay, let's get them out to the training. Let's get them back. There's going to be 2 or 3 things that they're going to really be good on, that they're going to key in on. And then the next year we'll send them back again, or maybe in 6 months we'll send them back again. They'll bring back a couple more things. So it's definite. I mean, it's somewhat systemized, but it takes time. There's no golden nugget that says here, like, here's what you can do to bring a sales guy in and make him successful on day one. But it definitely takes time.
I like that thought process too, is bringing them back do you bring them back to the same training, or do you bring them back to like a more advanced level, or how do you do it?
Great question. Yeah. So it kind of depends on where they're at. Okay. We have sent guys back to like the basic stuff. I've even gone back to the basic stuff. I mean, we feel that's important. But yeah, there are some other advanced trainings, our more seasoned guys, they'll go to the advanced courses, but we also have the advanced guys going back to the basics, and sometimes, what I think one of the things that we realize is, like, when sales guys get into a slump, it's not the advanced stuff that they're missing, right? It's all of the basics, not all the basics. It's one or two of those, the key questions that they just get out of habit of asking, or, they forget this one piece that worked for them, a year ago. And so when guys are getting in slumps, we always just go back to the basics, say, here, what are we doing now? So
I think it's also important when you're going back to the basics, and when you're going back through, those types of trainings, it is, especially after you've gained some experience, sometimes you hear it differently another time, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So always going back to those basics, and finding those missing pieces. So how do you track your salespeople's performance, and you're watching for kind of, slumps coming, and how do you manage that side of things?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, we track all of our sales guys. We have KPIs set in place. Obviously, each one of our guys has sales goals. Each individual sales goal gets us to our company goal. We have got, different monthly goals, quarterly goals, all that are like sales driven. Beyond that, we've got KPIs for gross margins. So obviously we want our guys not just to sell, but sell profitably. So we track gross margins very closely, and we have targets that we want our guys to hit. We also track closing ratios, obviously, and how those closing ratios are fluctuating. We can get granular on that with the lead sources, and what lead sources are closing and what aren't closing. And oftentimes we will shift lead sources around to different sales reps, because we'll see that we've got one guy that can really capitalize on, like, Home Advisor, right? They somehow get it. And then you've got, another guy that does really well with, like, the older demographic, right? They connect well with the older demographic. So you try to get granular with that. It's difficult though. That part's really hard. And that's an ongoing continuous effort there. We also track total leads. I guess it has to do with close ratios, but total opportunities. And I think one of the biggest things that we've realized over the last couple of years is increasing the number of leads for our guys doesn't always lend to an increase in sales. Mm. So we've figured out kind of this balance for guys, and most of our guys are the most successful when they're running 2 to 3 leads per day. And if they can run 2 or 3 leads per day, they can focus on those customers. Their closing ratios are going to be great. Their average service tickets are going to be great. The replacement ratios are going to be great. And that's going to get them to where their goals are. As soon as you get past that, closing ratios fall, details fall, average service tickets fall, gross margins fall, because you just kind of get strung out, right? They're not focused on the one. And so that's one of the big things that we've learned in the last couple of years is like lead flow, and how many leads these guys are given, and managing and tracking that is crucial for us.
That's cool. There's a couple of things I want to kind of go back to there. The first thing that you said, that one thing was that you talked about your gross margin targets, but you have your straightforward pricing. How do you manage that?
Yeah, that's good. So our straightforward pricing actually has the gross margin targets built into them. And so that makes it that much simpler for our guys. Also, keynote on that is straightforward pricing is just for repairs, that we don't have straightforward pricing for replacements. And so when we come to the table, we're going to come to the table with a repair option for straightforward pricing. It's an extremely easy decision for the customer. The sales guys don't have to worry about making their money or hitting their targets. It's already built in. That's why it's very easy. It's straightforward. It lends back to the name. Yeah. On the replacement side, obviously, we want to provide like a good, better, best option. And that's where the guys need to make sure that they're detailed in putting together the right scope with the right product, and making sure that we're going to hit our targets on the replacement side.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That makes perfect sense. How, the other thing that you talked about, and I think this is a thing that gets missed a lot too. I've had this conversation a couple of times. Mainly, I had this conversation with the roof strategist, Adam Bensman. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but I've had him on the show a couple of times. And we were talking, he has some stories when he was overseeing a sales team at his roofing company. And like one guy, he just learned that this one guy did so well in this type of neighborhood. Right. And this salesperson over here did so much better in that type of neighborhood. And, you know, that's such an interesting concept to think about, where you're putting us as, or being the business owner or the manager, being perceptive to those types of things.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a challenging thing, but it's something that rings very true. I have a good friend who's an electrician, and he crushes it with Home Advisor, right? Like, but when at a former company that he was with, no one in his company could close Home Advisor leads, but he had a very high closing ratio on him. And it was like, well, how can Don do it, but John can't, right? Like, yeah, but it's a different personality, different follow-up types, different, they have different, there's different strengths and weaknesses in each of your salespeople. How are you guys kind of monitoring that now? How are you making those decisions?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you're exactly right. Like, every salesman has their strengths and weaknesses. Like I said, like we've got one of our sales guys that just works really well with an older demographic, right? And so, their close ratios are like in the 60s and 70s, whereas all the other lead sources that they ran are in their like 30s and 40s. And so, just being in tune with it is extremely important. And it really comes back to tracking your lead source, right? Tracking your lead source. Where did the lead come from? The easy ones are like your actual like lead generation sources: Home Advisor, Angie's List, Google Ads, Facebook, right? Where you can ask a question, how did you hear about us? They're going to say, oh yeah, Facebook. those ones are easy. The tough ones are the demographic, the age groups, even ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
You got ethnicity is something that you can look at to see, okay, do I have some guys that resonate and some guys that don't? And so it's all important. It's all important to look at. To be honest with you, I don't think that we spend a ton of time really analyzing it.
Yeah.
We talk about it, right? I would say we talk about it once a quarter, and make adjustments as we need to. And that, to granulize that and to really get into every detail, to figure out what's going to work and what's going to work, or what's not going to work, is you have to have a lot of data, right? And so to sit on like a weekly basis or a monthly basis and try to analyze that and figure out like what to change, it's not worth your time. You got to run 100 leads on that demographic and then recognize, okay, these are the results of it. And then you have to have that many leads for this other group over here before you can really quantify and make significant changes and adjustments.
Yeah, definitely. And then, getting that right. And that's putting your people in the best position to succeed, I think, too. If you're able to step back and look at those things and help them, right? Because a lot of times, a salesperson won't know. They just go out and, hey, that lead, I didn't like, I didn't connect with that homeowner, but I connected with that homeowner, however it came to be.
Yeah.
You guys do with the straightforward pricing, you have it on the repair work. Do you do a lot of repair work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would say, it fluctuates, but somewhere around 20 to 25% of all of our revenue comes from repairs.
So I feel that a lot of times contractors miss this opportunity. How do you feel about that?
Every day. There's missed opportunities every single day on literally every single roof. There isn't a roof that I could get on and find a problem that probably could be or should be addressed right then and there. And it may only cost them $100, right? It may be shifting that vent just a little bit so that the wind next time doesn't catch it, and properly securing it, right? There's so many little things that we miss. And truthfully, until we had straightforward pricing, we were doing repairs for free.
Oh.
We would do them for free in hopes that we were building the relationship, right? The trust factor, or whatever you want to call it, so that they would call us the next time. And that's not what we think is successful. Like, you're missing out on a ton of revenue, but you're also missing out on an opportunity to provide an exceptional service on the repair side and set you up so that you're not just doing something for free and that's what they remember you by. They're going to remember you that, man, they came out, they provided a great service. It was an honest price, right? You showed up on time, you did all your work, and now it's a no-brainer the next time that they call you. They're not going to shop for any other replacements the next time around. They just know they want to use you.
And so that's a great lesson along the way, right? Because it is, I always think that a lot of contractors miss the boat on repairs because, just the way that, they don't have crews that could run those jobs and things. And, but you started off with the hope that they would call you later.
Yeah.
Right. But now through the years, you've developed a process to almost ensure that they call you later.
Absolutely.
I love that. That's like, those are just lessons, right? That's just business lessons. We start off with an idea. Hey, we got to do this. And this is what we hope will happen. But then you make adjustments along the way. So you went to the straightforward pricing. Now it's a profitable service for you instead of a break even or a loss.
Yeah.
Then you add in the club membership, which keeps you in front of those people over time.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that, you guys are definitely onto something there.
Jim, I think the biggest difference between us and a lot of other, I'm not going to say just roofers, but other contractors in general. And I don't say this just to like toot our own horn or whatever, but we had this training I don't know if everyone's probably heard of Simon Sinek, and he talks about playing an infinite game, right? Where there's no rules, there's no end, and that's kind of the approach that we take. And I think oftentimes, we get so caught up in our day to day where, and all of us are in different situations, right? All of us have bills to pay. All of us have the mortgage to pay. All of us want to go out and buy that new truck or have that lifestyle that you see on Instagram or whatever, and they think that you got to have it right now, right? And so I think everyone gets caught up in that, and we stop thinking about, like, what does next year need to look like? What do I want next year? What do I want the 5 years to look like? What do I want the 10-year plan to look like? And so we know that the only way that we're going to get to that point in our life where all of those things are working for us is to build relationships, right? It's not about going out and selling roofs. Roofing is a very small part of what we do. Ours is about building relationships. And if we can do that with providing a great service, obviously that's part of it. Another part of it is club memberships, right? We do a lot of work for free too, right? Like if we go out and we see that, that customer's in need, we'll do it for free, pro bono, right? Just to build the relationship. And so I think if contractors just in general could change their perspective of that, of like, stop trying to make the quick buck, right? Stop trying to make the quick buck, build a relationship that is going to last. That's where wealth comes from, right? That's where the longevity is built, where you can create a company that's really going to be around for a very, very long time. And we feel that that's where the biggest win is. So
I think you're spot on. I think it's difficult at times, especially if you're in kind of more of a startup phase, that it's difficult to not just take that next check and just get to the next check, get to the next check, get to the next check, get to the next check. It's hard to sit back and see the, kind of really envision what you want to do and work as if you were already there a little bit, right? Like you have to treat your company like you were already there. And it may take a short-term loss on a project to satisfy that long-term vision. And it may be difficult in the, if you're doing $1 million, 2 million, even 5 million in revenue, to take some of those, losses to develop those relationships. But over time, I mean, it works. Are you there for the long term? That's a question you should ask yourself. If you're really are you trying to build a business for the long term, or are you just in it for a paycheck, right? Like it's a different mindset, and someone that's in it for the paycheck is going to have a hard time competing with you, John.
I hope so. If I'm being honest, yeah.
I'm sure you've seen some competitors come and go in the marketplace since 1994, right? Like
absolutely.
So it's a different mindset, and that's awesome. So, and I think that maybe that kind of leads into what I see in your marketing and in your branding. It is that long-term. You have a long-term mindset, with the video content that you guys are doing and all of that type of stuff. That's long-term.
Yeah.
That's brand, right? Like, how have you seen your brand recognition change since 2012?
So, biggest tip, I gave it to you. So yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot. I think 2012 was a pivotal year for us because that's when our name, Five Guys, represented the family, right? And not just a company. And when you're trying to build a family legacy, the conversation is just different. So when you're trying to build a legacy, when you're trying to build an organization that you want it to be here after you die, you just think about things differently. You stop throwing out the advertising for discounts. we don't discount anything, right? We're not trying to make the quick buck. We're not trying to lure someone in the door, and then get them on the hook. And then, that's not what we do, because those aren't even the types of customers that we know that we want, right? We don't want the one and done customers. We want the forever customers. We want the customer that's going to let us do their roof and then their family's roof, and then they're going to move, and it's like, those are the types of customers that we want. But to kind of go back to 2012, we didn't have a ton of money, right? We were small. We were doing about $3 million a year. We had like 8 employees. And so there wasn't a ton of cash. We decided that we were going to put all of our money, all of our marketing money, if you will, into trucks. So we wrapped every single truck. And now our truck wraps are the most talked about thing in all of our conversations. Oh, I see your trucks everywhere. Oh, you guys are growing so fast. Oh, you guys must be huge now. And honestly, and it's funny because we haven't wrapped a new truck in probably 2 years. Like, the number of fleet that we have hasn't grown in like 2 years. But there's enough of them now to where it's made an impact across, our community. And that's been huge. And so if you're not wrapping trucks, I would definitely recommend it.
That's great advice. And it's having billboards on the road all the time, out in the marketplace, in the neighborhoods that you're working in front of your perfect customers, all the time. What have you, you guys have real cool stuff, in those truck wraps. I heard someone say recently, you want to make sure it's recognizable at that speed of passing someone, and things like that. Having having a way for someone to contact you on your truck. Don't just have don't just have your logo. You got to have a phone number. You got to have a website. You got to have the other things. That assist in that call to action. How many trucks do you have on the road now?
It fluctuates. I would say we've got, if I were guessing today, we've probably got around 45. 45 trucks or so.
So just driving around, the area all the time, just always out on the road, always people seeing it. I've heard the same thing. I don't know if you're familiar with him. His name is Dustin Beegler. He owns Apple Roofing, partner in Apple Roofing up in Omaha. And that was the same thing they did. They went for the branding aspect of it. They put trucks on the road, and that's a major driver of their sales and revenue. So that's great advice for people. And I think it's it also shows a level of professionalism when your people show up to the job site. There is a perception in all of this.
Absolutely.
In everything that you're doing here, whether you're a $3 million company can look like a $15 million company. In front of the customer, right? There can be no difference in the customer's eyes at times.
So the truck wrap obviously creates an image, right? And it creates brand. But I'll tell you this, it's hard for Chuck in a truck that shows up in his beat up, 15, 20-year-old pickup with no lettering to go out and sell a premium roof, right? It's hard to create that value and to have something to back that. So if you want to be a leader in the marketplace, or if you want to be, if you want to be at the top of the market as far as, the product that you're going to bring, you got to have an image that's going to back it. So that's one thing. I think another thing is when you get an employee in a wrapped vehicle, how they drive, how they look, how they take care of that vehicle is much different. On top of that, throw GPS on there. Their whole world changes, right?
Their whole world changes.
So, there's a level of accountability there that employees recognize and they're willing to abide by.
Yeah.
when you give them the tools and the resources to allow them to be successful, and a wrap truck is one of them.
Yeah. And that kind of leads to, or part of that conversation or behind that conversation is your perfect customer, right?
Absolutely.
And being having the right image for your perfect customer. And as you said earlier, you guys don't sell on price. So this company, you are not that is not your perfect customer. Knowing who your perfect customer is and making sure that you stand out to them is also very important. And I think you guys do a lot of that, a really great job of that, like through social media and video, YouTube, things like that. Can you speak to that strategy a little bit?
Sure. So, I would say I don't think we necessarily have like a robust social media strategy. We've basic stuff you're going to learn in any handbook on how to do social media is kind of the rules that we abide by. Obviously, we video content, I think, is the one thing that differentiates us from a lot of companies in general. We know that people consume content via video now. People do not read anything. I don't even read anything. So, everyone's getting on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever the case is. They're going straight to the videos and they'll consume videos for hours. And so, we made a conscious decision about 2.5 or 3 years ago that we need to put out video content, and it does not have to be great, right? Like the video content does not have to be perfect. And in fact, most of the video content that people will consume is the raw footage, unedited, the bloopers. Like those are all the things that people like to consume, right? Now, there's an image that you try to maintain, right? And so we have a videographer that does all the edits and stuff like that, but for the longest time, it was literally just taking out our phone and videoing whatever we could that we thought someone would like and throwing it out there. And we've slowly but surely, kind of started to understand, what works, what doesn't work, what people like, what people don't like. But I mean, that's taken years to figure that out. But so the strategy that we have now, obviously, we want to create, kind of back to the brand, we want to create videos that represent who we are and what our brand is, and what our long-term objectives are. We custom tailor some messages for audiences. So, if we want to go after, a higher luxury in home, we want to make sure that we got a video that is showcasing a higher end luxury home. And then we'll put that out to our different social channels. The one thing that we don't do that probably a lot of people do is spend money on social media. So, there's a lot of guys that will boost posts, that will pay for engagement, they'll pay for impressions. We don't do it. We don't do that. We push stuff out there, and we hope that we get that organic reach and build our social media profile that way. Obviously, all of our customers, we try to get to our social channels, but that's pretty much it on the social side. So,
but that's just the right thing to do on social. It's there are definitely paid strategies that can enhance what you're the things that you do on social.
Yeah.
But just that organic presence and having video content, man, like, start doing videos if you're not. And that's great advice, John, that it doesn't have to be the most polished professional, video. We're used to people pulling out their phones.
Yeah.
We see this content all the time. It's not unusual at this point in 2021. This is not unusual.
Yeah.
This is, all of what TikTok is built on, right? Like,
exactly.
All of what Instagram, Instagram is a lot of images, but now it's more video on Instagram. I see a lot of video on Instagram.
Yeah. It's everyone posting the stories and creating reels. That's what Instagram is going to. And if you notice, like, people's news feeds is drastically less now because everyone's using the stories for video and just uploading videos. So that's where the future is.
It is, for sure. And so did you guys bring a videographer on staff? Do you have a contract videographer that you work with? How did you find that relationship?
Great question. So back in 2012, we actually just found a videographer. I think we paid him like, I can't remember, a couple $1,000, and he did like 7 videos for us, right? He came out, set up the thing, did his whole edits and sent us these videos, and they were really cool. And we actually used like 4 or 5 videos, and we would just kind of like chop them up
Yeah.
repurpose everything for probably like 2 or 3 years, honestly. I bet people got sick of it. But then we realized, like, let's just pull out our phones and let's just do, the raw footage. And then we started that way. It wasn't until like 2.5 or 3 years ago that we really wanted to make a big push on the video side. And then we went out and found a videographer. We brought him on, paid him a salary, and kept him extremely busy, just going out on projects, meeting with customers, doing testimonials, that whole thing.
How have those video testimonials been for your business?
They've been good. I don't want to say they've been great. I think that people like video testimonials from customers. I think that they're important, but I don't think it's like a driving factor for us. Yeah. I think if you've got a neighborhood, a well-recognized neighborhood, and you're trying to, really go after that neighborhood, like we've got a neighborhood that's in Scottsdale, which is, the expensive high-end neighborhood. And then within Scottsdale, you got the Biltmore, right? The Biltmore has got 2 or 3 golf courses. It's got the clubhouse. You got $2 or $3 million homes. So, if you can get a well-recognized name in there that you've done a project for, which we've been able to do, then yeah, get the testimonial, email that to every single proposal that you send in that neighborhood, and you're going to crush the neighborhood. But for the person that doesn't know that guy that lives on the other side of town, not all that relevant.
Yeah, for sure. That's what's so cool about social media and video content and things like that is you could get that specific.
Yeah.
Right? You can say, hey, we're in the Biltmore area, and these are some of have project videos that you can show to those customers. You can have customer testimonials. You could create a whole presentation out of that, which can set you apart tremendously in that conversation.
Absolutely.
So what do you think? I mean, I know I don't want to say what's the biggest driver but in your marketing strategy, how do you guys look at it? Is it like you guys do a lot of things, right? You guys are even a partner with the Diamondbacks. You guys do a lot of different marketing. How do you look at that? How do you decide what you're going to do for your marketing efforts, where you're going to put those marketing dollars?
Absolutely. So first off, I think when it comes to marketing dollars, I think that first allocate a certain percentage of those marketing dollars back to your employees. And I say that because you could spend hundreds or thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing that does not work. You could take that same money and give it back to your employees in bonuses and in spiffs and let them talk about the company, and you're going to be infinitely better. Okay. So we'll leave that at that. Spend money on your employees to get them to talk about the company and drive referrals, employee referrals. That's been our most success, right? Is to figure out how to generate more customer referrals through your employees. And the only way to do that is to get your employees talking about it. Give them $50, give them $100, give them whatever you would pay for any other lead. Give it to them if they can bring a lead in the door, and incentivize them. So that would be my first suggestion. Beyond that, it's all trial and error. If I'm being honest, it is all trial and error. We ran with Home Advisor for 2 years, and it was our best lead source. It was the most volume. Close ratios were okay. Average service tickets were a little low, but it was all justified because that's where we're getting vast majority of our leads. This year, for whatever reason, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. We've had to reduce our ad spend, right? Our closing ratios have dropped. And I don't know, maybe another competitor came into the marketplace. Maybe they changed their algorithm. I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden it just doesn't work. So we've pulled our ad spend, and now we're pushing it over here. Actually, we pulled a lot of that back and given it back to our employees. So our strategy with some of the bigger stuff like the Diamondbacks, we've been on radio now for 7 or 8 months. And that again, it's all trial and error. You have to try it. You've got to allocate enough money to get through, a season, right? Or a period of time to know what the results are. With radio, it's a big investment. You've got to run for like 3 to 6 months minimum if you're doing a brand thing, right? If you're trying to do like a quick splash, try it. It's probably not going to work. Radio is a long-term thing. Diamondbacks, getting your name in a stadium and creating that brand, that's a long-term play, right? Now, what happens when your team is losing? What happens when you have the worst record, in the MLB and, no one's watching the game? So 1 year you could be great. The next year it could be tragic. And so we're honestly experiencing that now with the Diamondbacks, unfortunately.
Wow.
So like I said, it's all trial and error. It's month by month, it's period by period, it's season by season, and it's got to be a constant, reoccurring, ongoing effort to figure out where your marketing dollars are working and where they're not.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn, the kind of business philosopher. And it was always, you have to have 5 to 7 lead sources to have consistent lead flow in your business. Right. And that's, you got to spread it out, and it seems like you guys are doing that well, right? A lot of it is in the brand, but a lot of it is towards the referrals. Do you guys have a specific referral program, or you just said you were making adjustments? So you took some of those marketing dollars recently, it sounds like, and said, hey, team,
yeah,
here's an additional bonus pool that's available to you. How did you guys put that together?
Yeah. So, man, I wish I could tell you that we had like this really cool, like set in stone strategy. That's not really how it works though with us. We looked at it and we went, man, like, for example, Home Advisor's not working. We're going to pull $3,000 a month down, and we know we're going to have that money. So in our next company meeting, we sit and go, hey guys, look, like here's what's going on. Home Advisors isn't working. We really need to generate leads. So for the next 2 weeks, we want you guys to take these flyers or this business card, write your name on it, and go every house that you like within a 5x5 area of the inspection that you're doing, spend 10 minutes, hand them the business card. And if they call in with your name on that flyer, we're going to give you $50. So that strategy to talk through with our employees has been really helpful. It's been key. And just constantly reiterating that, like, hey, bring in a lead. If you have a new customer or a new address, bring them in, we'll pay you $50. So that's like standard across the board. And so depending on how well other lead sources are going and where we're getting our leads from will depend on like how much we talk about it and how much we push it. When it gets super busy, like right now, we're not talking about it. Like, yeah. Look, we don't need any more leads, honestly. Like, we're booked out 3 weeks. Let's focus on what we've got. And then once it starts teetering off, we'll cheer that back up again.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how you say that. Like, it can vary, but bringing it back, just allocating and watching where the business is going and making sure that you're pushing on the right pedals, right? You're switching the right levers and just trying to guide the ship through the, through. Yeah. What would you say is the greatest insight that you could share with our audience that has helped you help you and your family find success in the roofing business?
Great question. Well, that's kind of a tough question to answer. I think for us, it goes back to why we're doing this, right? Like when I talked about this yesterday in one of our meetings, our why is different. And I think you got to figure out what your why is. Our why, like we love people, right? We love people. We love relationships. And if you could focus on people and stop focusing on other things, focus on building people, empowering people, taking care of people, taking care of the needs of people, and know that that's like the driving force behind all your decisions. I think that your long-term success is going to come from that. I think that if you can empower people to do the right things, and that includes even like your customers, and there we can go into details on that. We don't have time, but like there's a way to empower people to get them to buy into who you are and what you're doing. And if you can understand that and live by that, that's where your success is going to, well, that's where our success is coming from. And I think that option is available to everybody. You can take advantage of it. There's no limits to it. So that'd be my suggestion.
Awesome. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more sales through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com and get a copy of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors: How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thanks for listening.